A Short Hike is one of those games I've been wanting to play ever since I first saw it. Soaring around, platforming to the top of a mountain, and just discovering new things in Hawk Peak Provincial Park all sounded like a super relaxing game I would love. It's no surprise it's often referred to as a cross between Animal Crossing and Breath of the Wild because of its exploratory nature and charming appeal of talking to the park's animal inhabitants. With the game just now being announced for Switch, it's as great a time as any for people to get lost in this world, even if it just takes a few hours to complete the whole experience. I was a little hesitant on playing this game at first because of the argument against short games, with questions like, are short games really worth their price compared to other games where you can sink in hundreds of hours? If I wasn't already convinced that short games are worth buying, I am now. This game is pure charm, discovery, and fun. You play as a girl bird named Claire, who gets dropped off by her parents at this summer camp. Her initial goal upon arriving is to get cell service, which starts you on your journey to get to the top of Hawk Peak. It takes the trope of people always wanting cell service and subverts that desire and makes you find joy in discovery instead. When the game first opened up, I talked to Aunt May, who told me to go to Hawk Peak, which was to the left, but I decided to go to the right instead just to see what I could discover on my own. That's part of the beauty of this game. There is a loose structure to the game that you can follow if you want, or you can just go where you want and talk to whoever you want to talk to. This freedom of choice made my experience playing through this game feel unique because of the things I discovered on my playthrough. For example, when I chose to go the opposite direction at the start of the game, I found two birds on a volleyball court. I talked to them and found out I was completely wrong. It was actually a beach stick ball court where I had to hit the beach ball back with a stick. I decided to play with the bird holding the stick, and after each round, the bird on the chair said the score. She said we got 16 hits while the bird with the stick said we got 17. The debate was over whether or not the serve should count as a point, and you get to decide the outcome. This little mundane decision added so much charm to the world where you feel a part of the park and the characters there. These interactions give you just a tiny bit of insight into how people interact and each character's personality traits. I ended up getting past 10 hits in beach stick ball, so I got a golden feather as my reward. I decided to play a little more and eventually got up to the max score of 30 hits, and they gave me a baseball hat that I proudly wore for the majority of the game. It's little interactions like that with the various animals around the park that drew me into the world. There's a lot of characters with special interactions like that just waiting to be discovered. Obviously the writing in the game is excellent, which is why I wanted to stay and finish all of the game's tasks and see what each character was like. The overarching goal of the game is to make it to the top of Hawk Peak, and in order to do that you need to get golden feathers, which give you the ability to climb surfaces and flap your wings to launch you higher into the air. You can find golden feathers scattered around the world, purchase them from people, or get them by completing tasks for the animals around the park. You can beat the game by getting a minimum of 7 feathers, but the game was so enjoyable for me that I knew I wanted to get all of them. I first completed the hike with 12 feathers, but I knew that wouldn't be the end of the game for me. I still had lots of tasks to complete, so the second I beat the game and flew down off the peak, I got to work doing more tasks for the animals. You also acquire different items throughout the game that you can either find or are given to you from talking to the various animals. These items help you open up new areas, shortcuts, or find coins. All of these items give you something to look for in the world, like spots you can dig or caves you can open. While these items do help to get feathers to make the final hike easier, they are really there to serve the core of the game, which is all about discovery. What really ties the game's atmosphere together is the soundtrack. This whole video so far I've been using background music from the game. It's so relaxing and easy to listen to that I barely even noticed it was there while playing. The gameplay and writing is what keeps your brain engaged, but the music is what really pushed the game into the great territory for me. The soundtrack is as soothing as Doom's soundtrack is metal. Both are used to perfection and perfectly match the action happening on screen. The graphic style is very unique too, yet fits just as well as the soundtrack. It looks like a modern low polygon style with vibrant colors that have as much charm as everything else in the game. Even though a potato could run this game, I'd much rather play a game with a style as good as this than a game with ironically lifeless photorealism, ray tracing, and billions of Bakugans per pixel or whatever they're doing nowadays.
There are around 1 million triangles each. They all use 8K textures as well. There are over 1 billion triangles of source geometry in each frame. Speaking of lighting, all of the lighting in this demo is completely dynamic.
Shut up about the sun! Shut up about the sun!
A Short Hike is one of the most well-paced games I've played because you get to set the pace at which you discover things and complete the game. I genuinely wanted to get to know all of the inhabitants of the park. I've never had that experience before of wanting to get to know virtual characters, despite playing games like Stardew Valley, where that's one of the draws of the game. The initial draw of the game for me that led me to buy it was the flying and art style, but what I found was a game all about discovery and relationships. It's definitely one of the best indie games I've played and is sure to stay with me for a long time. Thanks for watching, and if you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. I highly recommend this game if you couldn't tell already. Even though it's a short game, it's well worth the $8 it costs.